Fran Lab. Yeah, I did want to see. I'm going through my notes here. Okay. Oh, so here's another one. I'm gonna be racing through these 2 hours. I had a flurry of comments this week. It wasn't just one person. It was several people who commented about these AI voiced shorts about my content, and I even had an email from someone who said that there's this AI, short that I found that's using your music, and I said, oh, that's interesting. AI's using my music. So I went to the link, and it was my own video. It was one of my shorts, but I had a number of people just this week. I mean, it hadn't happened before, but just this week, who are concerned that I'm using artificial intelligence to make my own videos. I said, no, this is not AI. This is me. This is my radio voice. I'll give you an example. This is the most recent one. I'm going to show it to you right now. In 1974, the display in the digital clock radio that you might have bought may well have been entirely mechanical. This was not unusual, but one particularly rare example is the Digitel, made by the Telecron Company, a unique mechanical clock that was only seen in a few consumer products in the early 1970s. These unusual digital clocks created an eerie and ghost-like projection of numbers that seemed to morph and transform in a magical way. But this was not electronic. It was a machine. The entire mechanism was driven by an AC synchronous motor, which kept time, and which powered a gear train that in turn moved a set of 3 cam wheels, each with a uniquely shaped slot, into which a follower pin would ride. And that tiny follower pin set the positions of 3 slotted control arms. The precise position of each cam wheel was set by a complex ratchet and paw mechanism driven by the motor, which also synchronized the carryover of the tens of minutes to the hours. The slotted end of each control arm moved a pin on the back of each digit, and the precise position of that pin determined the number that would be displayed. These pins moved internal transparent plates that had patterns screened into them, which when placed in a specific position would open or close apertures in a cast plastic mask. Completing the illusion was a prismatic cover panel that both diffused and blended the line segments into the final displayed digits. The Telecron Digitel was a surprisingly complex and delicate mechanism, and relatively few of them survive today. In 1974, LED and vacuum fluorescent displays were already making their way into these same kinds of products, and the Digitel was soon forgotten. But now, over 50 years later, it is a wonder to marvel at such a creative display that turned out to be perhaps the most eerie digital clock ever made. In my lab, it's where I work. So yeah, that is my radio voice. And I have one comment in particular said, oh, Fran, you really missed your calling. You should have been a professional voiceover artist, or you should be doing voiceover for a living. And I had to point out that what you're watching is literally my job. That is what I do. I am a professional voiceover artist. Most of my content doesn't use my voiceover voice, but what you're watching is literally my job. So yeah, I am doing it professionally, and I did it professionally decades ago. It was like one of my first jobs was being on the radio. It's how I learned to talk like that. I guess the reason that people think that about the AI is that because I have an old school radio voice. Back in the old days, talking 30 years ago, that's how you talked on the radio. There was an expected way of talking when the Howard Stern type of, just getting close to the mic and just rambling on and just talking. Before that, there was a certain way of talking on the radio, which is, it's parodied a lot in movies. But yeah, that's the way DJs used to talk. I never really went full on like radio DJ. I never talked fast. My style was a slow style. And it basically what I do in the shorts, that's how I talked on the radio in the old days. And I wouldn't call it criticism, but the fact that I was considered to have a lazy style of talking on the radio, because typically, especially when I worked at the FM station, they wanted time to be compressed. They wanted it to be fast. And so when I'd read through commercials, when I would do the little snippets, when I'd do the lead-ins to the next record, they wanted it to be faster and higher energy, and I had this laid back kind of talking style, which the program director would take me to task, says, "You're speaking too slow, you're talking too slowly, we have to get this down. You know, you're using 27 seconds, you're supposed to get that down to 15. You know, but it's weird that like now it's like my style's perfect for YouTube Shorts, and I'm being rewarded handsomely with views because the YouTube algorithm is loving my voiceover style, because all of my little YouTube Shorts that I do the voiceover on, if I do a voiceover over it, it does very well, and like 80% of the views to my channel are coming from the shorts. In the early 1970s, 7-segment digital displays were usually driven by incandescent or neon lamps, and LED displays were still far too small and dim to be used in something to be viewed at a distance. That is, until around 1974, when Texas Instruments introduced the first commercially available LED desk clock, and simultaneously several manufacturers had developed displays that looked exactly like an LED display, but using completely mechanical systems to create clocks that looked just like an expensive LED display, but manufactured at just a fraction of the cost. One such type clock used a mechanism designed and manufactured by General Time Corporation that used strips of polyester perforated film that contained a moving sequence of numbers, back illuminated by a pair of incandescent light bulbs. The clock used an AC synchronous motor to keep time, and the film strips were threaded through a winding pathway behind the front display. Sprocket wheels moved the film to the correct position, where a red lens tinted the numbers to an LED shade of red. In my lab, it's where I work. I'm gonna keep trying to do them. I'm actually enjoying it. I'm having fun doing the shorts because each one of those shorts is a little mini movie, and I like doing little mini movies. I write up a little script. It's just like 3 paragraphs, a 3-paragraph script. I like being able to write a little script. I like doing the voiceover with the capsule mic where I put the pantyhose, you know, rocking the mic with the pantyhose. Because if you don't have the pantyhose disc, then you get the pee popping, so that you can get close. I like being close to the mic and doing my radio voice and kind of throwing it together, and I can do it in a one sitting. I can do a short in a sitting. So I'm gonna try to keep doing them. I got a lot of content, baby, a lot of videos that I can do a short on. Lots. So where I work. In the lab. Go berserk. In my lab. It's where I work.